Here's today's Strength for Life with your host, Pastor James C. Johnson.
As a teenager in church, I watched as my pastor preached, and a man and his wife were so offended by my pastor's message that they got up from their padded pew during his sermon. They gathered their belongings in dramatic fashion, and they huffed and puffed down the aisle and out the back door. They were offended, and they wanted everyone to know it. Wherever there are people, whether in secular or sacred venues, there will be offenses. Jesus said, offenses will come. Husbands and wives get offended at each other. Brothers and sisters fight and get offended at each other. Whether it's in church, or it's in the home, or it's in the workplace, the people who are supposed to be unified and working harmoniously together are often found feuding and offended at each other. And for Christians, these things ought not so to be. In the Bible, offenses are defined as things that cause us to stumble. Offenses are relational or theological scandals that inhibit us from being in a right relationship with God and in a right relationship with others. Euodias and Syntyche were offended at each other in Philippians chapter 4. Paul kindly rebukes them and tells them to be of the same mind. He is saying, ladies, get along. Harmony and unity should describe you, ladies, not foolish feuding and quarrelsome offense. And by the way, notice that Paul never weighs in on the details of the feud. He never picks a side because it doesn't matter. Instead, he does something much wiser. He reminds these ladies how to get over their offenses by having a heavenly perspective. Did you notice that I said he reminds them? After all, these were ladies who had previously labored with Paul in the gospel. Paul's instruction to them essentially trivializes their offense at each other, while at the same time emphasizes to them the big picture. He tells these Christian women and the entire Philippian church essentially to do four things. Rejoice in the Lord. After all, Jesus has done so much for you. He tells Euodias and Syntyche to control yourself. No yelling, no pushing, no shoving, no hair pulling, no out of control nonsense, even though you're offended. Why? Because Jesus is coming again. And then Paul tells them to stop worrying and to start praying with a spirit of thanksgiving. And Paul says, if you'll do these four things, if you'll apply these heavenly perspectives to your temporal offense, Euodias and Syntyche, you will both enjoy the peace of God, which passeth all understanding. And you can maintain that unfathomable peace if you'll ruminate on things that are true and honest and just and pure and lovely and of good report. And the implication is, stop meditating on the exaggerated and inflammatory details of the scandal and think about Jesus, because he is everything that verse 8 describes. Then Paul explains, I've done this personally. He is saying, I have applied this to my life, and it's worked for me. One of the secrets to Paul's ministry and spiritual success was that he understood how to overcome offenses. He never let the offenses of life trip him up or inhibit him from his heavenly focus. The Apostle Paul controlled the hurt as much as was possible. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a difference between objective hurt and subjective hurt. When Paul was stoned at Lystra and drug outside of the city and left for dead, he was objectively hurt on a physical level. And those specific wounds will take a specific amount of time to heal. However, when people reviled Paul, when they criticized him in a verbal, insulting kind of a way, I believe that Paul understood that those words will only hurt him as long as he lets them hurt him. The words people say that so often offend us and sometimes hurt us very deeply can either hurt us for the rest of our lives, or we can dismiss the verbal nonsense, forgive the offense immediately, and only allow the hurt to offend us briefly. Paul the Apostle had a lot of haters. He had a lot of abusers. He had a lot of reasons to be offended at others, but instead, his actions indicated that he never allowed these temporal offenses to cause him to stumble from fulfilling his eternal goal which was to make Christ known. When someone offends you, you get to determine how long it hurts. The cliche statement, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words or names will never hurt me," that statement's not fully true, because words do hurt. But you have control over how bad that hurt is. For your sake, I urge you to quickly forgive others for their offenses, and instead of living a life full of drama and fighting, apply the biblical principles that Paul gave the Philippians, and when you do, the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus.
If this Strength for Life video strengthened you, please like and share this video so that it can help others. Also, to view more Strength for Life, go to our YouTube page and be sure to click subscribe and also click the bell icon so that you won't miss a video.